Well, first of all, I really, as I said before about this idea that X is an illusion, any, particular thing we rely on is an illusion, I always think that the first issue is to discuss what we mean by illusion. I mean, if we think that the sun is pulled through the sky by a chariot, um, there is an illusion involved in our thoughts about the sun. But the sun still goes through the sky. The illusion is, for example, if we thought we saw this chariot pulling it or something like that. If we look at an object in the real world and think that it's made of this tangible matter that's separate from energy, um, and we look closer and closer, we find that that's an illusion, that the object is an illusion, that really it's made up of lots of little independent parts. Ultimately, those are made of energy. So, our concept of object had an elusive quality, but the object itself did exist. Okay, the object itself still had a substantial reality. So the fact that it was there was not an illusion. Our explanation for it was just wrong. It's analogous to self. The self breaks down into parts and little subcells and things that look like even contradictory selves. It seems possible that when you separate one half of the brain from the other, that each half of the brain can develop its own sense of self. So I believe, that the way to go forward on defining the self is first of all to access our own self. And in my case, I think that that self is specifically whatever it is that is experiencing, whether it causes those experiences or what its role in those experiences are. Doesn't matter. The definition is just that it's the thing having these experiences, which makes it separate from consciousness. Now, I think that I don't know what makes one network able to have this uh, to have a self that is experiencing and what doesn't. I know when I see a network, if it seems to be working or concerned with its own survival, then I will definitely identify that with a sense that it has a sense of self. I think that if the networks can have both a sense of self or just have a self, that we're multiple networks, and that we'll find that the parts of the network also have a sense of self, or can, not in all cases, and that we things that of which we networks of which that we are a part of will also potentially have a sense of self. And I think we see this in the the way humans think about identification and when they identify with groups and how they can identify with many groups, including themselves. And I think this is a biological reaction to the arbitrariness of self. So I see that our concept of self has been an illusion. We thought that it was some indivisible atomic thing. Really, it breaks down into parts. Really, it's about networks. Really, it can break down into other selves. And there could be multiple selves overlapping and all kinds of weird things that show that our old-fashioned idea of self was insufficient. But self itself is not an illusion. There really are networks, and these networks really do experience, and in that case, that network has a self. Something with reference with which you can well, it's basically a reference point uh, from which you can talk about the survival of that network.